Good morning. Years before the Me Too movement made it socially acceptable to speak about sexual abuse, a group of young boys ranging between the ages of 13 to 15 were deeply troubled and didn't know who to turn to. They were members of the Torrance High School wrestling team, and they were expected to follow the directions of their newly appointed coach, Thomas Snider. But some of the things that he had them do were just downright embarrassing and humiliating. They couldn't find the words to tell their parents or their teachers or the administration. High school athletes, after all, were supposed to be strong and not whining. So it was at a wrestling event at another school that these boys talked to other members of another wrestling team about what their coaches did. Does your coach make you undress and step naked into a closet in front of him so that he can examine you? And does he spread your cheeks and move your genitals from side to side? And does he get out a flashlight so we can get a better look, all under the guise of checking for ringworm or skin diseases? And does he sit in a chair and watch you naked showering to make sure that you're clean? And when you have an ache, does he make you lay naked on a table? And does he massage your genitals as a form of massage therapy? And the boys were confused because there was a logical explanation for everything that this man did, but it still felt wrong. And thankfully, the other boys were horrified and they told their coaches. And those coaches called the authorities and an investigation was launched, which led to the arrest and conviction of Thomas Snider. But what none of these boys knew, or their families, or even these other coaches, was that the Torrance Unified School District was well aware of Thomas Snider. As far back as a decade earlier, there were complaints that the district received from former students, including one who stated that he had been sodomized by this man during a camping trip while he was in middle school. And the complaints from this student continued for years. The school district, however, never conducted an investigation. They never called the authorities. They never put Thomas Snider on leave. They did, however, call the police on the constant caller who kept complaining. They wanted the calls to stop and thought they were being harassed. They also called Snider to tell him he may want to get an attorney. And then in 2014, they inexplicably gave this sexual predator unfettered and unsupervised access to these young, innocent, and unsuspecting boys. Now, altogether, there are about 27 victims who each filed lawsuits against Snider, and 26 of these cases were consolidated into one case. And we've all been there in that circumstances. It moves slow, it's tedious, you set depositions almost like by an act of Congress. But there was one case, a lone case out there, that was not consolidated. It was one that was steaming ahead of the pack. It was one that had an attorney who was vigorously contesting and winning motions, everything that the defendant filed, including a motion for stay. And early on, this case was seen by the judges as on a different posture than the rest. And so the attorney in this lone case conducted her own discovery, took all the depositions first, and led the way for others to follow. Now, what makes this so extraordinary is that this attorney had been practicing law for about 6 years when this odyssey began and had far less experience than her opposing counsel or many of the other counsel in the consolidated cases. But this wasn't any young attorney. This was a woman who knows and understands winning and competition. This was Taylor Rayfield, who set NCAA records as a volleyball player for the North Carolina Tar Heels. On the court, she went after every ball like her life depended on it. And in this case, she went after every opponent in the school district and from the school district like a champion. Fueled by passion and a conviction that she had to stand up for those who could not stand up for themselves. She was relentless. She was angry. Her client was a 14-year-old boy who was a good kid who loved wrestling. And he was forever traumatized by someone who was supposed to be his coach and his teacher in a place in which he was supposed to be safe. And he was so deeply ashamed by what happened, so ashamed that he quit wrestling and he transferred schools. But at his deposition, he showed his spirit when he was asked what he wanted to do. He said, "I want to help people like me." So Taylor, thinking of this boy, never rested. She was ready for a trial at a time when the consolidated cases were still getting organized. And because of her hard work, she was able to obtain a staggering settlement that served as a benchmark for all of those cases that followed a year later. And when all was said and done, over $32 million was paid to these boys, and none of that would have been possible without the hard work of Taylor Rayfield. She deserves this award because she is a street fighter. She learned all her skills fighting in the streets, which in lawyer speak is in the depositions that she had to take, in the motions that she filed and had to deflect, in her constant battle against difficult defense counsel and lying school officials. It's something you can't teach. It's something that you either have or you don't have it, and Taylor has it. She never gave up. She never gave in. She was utterly fearless in leading the way, and what she accomplished for those boys is nothing short of extraordinary. Taylor, can you please stand up? Thank you for your hard work.